My boyfriend left me for someone else. It wasn't just a breakup. It felt like my entire world had shattered. We had built so much together, dreamed of a future that now seemed impossible. Years went by, and I thought I had finally moved on, found my footing again. Then, out of nowhere, he came back into my life, saying he'd made a mistake and begging for forgiveness. He didn't realize that I was no longer the person he left behind. I had grown stronger, happier, and I wasn't about to let him back in. What happened next changed everything, leaving him with nothing but regret. This is my story of heartbreak, healing, and standing up for myself. Before Derek left, our relationship felt like a story unfolding just as I had always hoped. We met in college, two young souls eager to build something meaningful. From late-night talks to spontaneous weekend trips, our connection was electric, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and the kind of comfort that comes from knowing someone truly sees you. I believed in us wholeheartedly. When we moved in together after graduation, I thought we were laying the foundation for a lifetime. Life wasn't perfect, of course. We had our disagreements and moments of doubt, but those felt like natural challenges any couple faces. Derek was ambitious and charming, and I admired how he chased his goals with determination. I was creative and passionate about my work in graphic design, and he always encouraged me to pursue my dreams. We balanced each other out, or so I thought. Emotionally, I was happy, hopeful, and ready to build a future. My support system included my best friend Olivia, who had been my confidant since high school, always ready with a listening ear and wise advice. My younger brother Ethan, protective and straightforward, often reminded me to value myself and never settle for less than I deserved. My mother, Linda, was a constant source of warmth and strength, offering unconditional love and encouragement through every phase of my life. When Derek proposed, it felt like the culmination of everything I had hoped for. We talked about marriage, children, and growing old together. I was genuinely excited about our future, imagining a home filled with love and shared memories. But beneath the surface, things were beginning to change. Derek became distant. Longer work hours, less communication, a quietness that unsettled me. I tried to hold on to the good moments, telling myself it was just stress, a rough patch we'd get through. Then, one day, everything came crashing down. Derek told me he had met someone else. The words hit like a freight train. The man I loved was leaving me for another woman. The pain was unimaginable, like losing a part of myself. I felt betrayed, abandoned, and lost in a sea of emotions that I wasn't sure I could navigate. The future I had envisioned crumbled in an instant, replaced by uncertainty and heartache. In the weeks that followed, I struggled to make sense of what had happened. I questioned my worth, replayed every moment of our relationship, and wondered if I could have done something differently. Friends and family rallied around me, especially Olivia, who was unwavering in her support. She reminded me of my strength, even when I couldn't see it myself. Ethan's protective nature meant he was always ready to step in with tough love and practical advice. My mother's nurturing presence offered comfort and reminded me that healing takes time. Despite the darkness, I began to slowly rebuild. I focused on my work, throwing myself into projects that reignited my passion. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones who brought positivity into my life. Each day was a small victory, a step toward reclaiming my happiness. I started to see that my life wasn't defined by Derek's choices, but by my resilience and determination. Years passed, and I truly began to move on. I found joy in simple things, a quiet morning with a good book, laughter with friends, and the satisfaction of personal achievements. I grew more confident, independent, and at peace. Derek was a chapter behind me, a painful but necessary part of my story. Then, out of the blue, Derek reached out. His message was simple, but loaded. I made a mistake. Can you forgive me? For a moment, I was stunned. After all this time, after the pain and growth, he wanted back in. The flood of emotions was overwhelming. Anger, confusion, a flicker of old feelings, and above all, a firm resolve not to be caught in that past again. I knew this was a test, not just of my feelings, but of my progress. Could I let go of the hurt and open the door to someone who had hurt me so deeply? Or had I grown enough to protect myself and say no? The question hung in the air, heavy with possibility and risk. The moment Derek reached out after all those years, a flood of emotions rushed through me. Surprise, anger, confusion, and an unexpected flicker of old feelings I thought had long since faded. His message was simple. I made a mistake. Can you forgive me? But it carried so much weight. The man who had left me shattered, the man whose betrayal had forced me to rebuild my life alone, was suddenly asking for a second chance. The timing felt cruel, almost mocking. Why now? After everything, why come back? I wrestled with the question endlessly. The pain from the past wasn't something I could simply erase with a few words. Memories of heartbreak, loneliness, and betrayal were still vivid. Every moment I had spent picking up the pieces of my life, every tear shed in the quiet nights, came rushing back. But alongside the pain was also a deep well of strength and resilience I had cultivated over the years. I wasn't the same person Derek had left behind. I had grown, learned, and healed. That realization was both comforting and empowering. When I finally decided to respond, it wasn't out of weakness or longing. It was from a place of clarity. I wanted to understand why he was reaching out after so long. Derek's explanations were vague, full of regret but lacking in accountability. He spoke of mistakes and realizations, but there was no apology that truly acknowledged the damage he had done. It was clear he wanted to rekindle something, but I was cautious. I didn't want to fall back into old patterns or allow myself to be hurt again. Conversations with Derek were emotionally charged. Sometimes I felt the old connection flicker. Other times I was reminded why we had broken apart. His attempts to win me back were met with polite firmness. I listened, but kept my guard up. My best friend Olivia was a steady voice during this time, reminding me of my worth and encouraging me not to be swayed by empty promises. My brother Ethan was blunt, warning me not to let Derek back into my life unless he was ready to make real changes. As the dialogue continued, I found myself reflecting deeply on what I truly wanted. Was I holding on to hope for closure, or was there a part of me still longing for the love we once shared? I realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or forgetting the pain. It meant releasing myself from the hold the past had on me. I could forgive Derek without needing to rekindle what had been lost. The social implications of Derek's return also weighed heavily on me. Friends who had watched me struggle now watched as I faced this new chapter. Some were supportive, others skeptical. Mutual acquaintances whispered, wondering if I would take him back or if old wounds would reopen. It was uncomfortable, but I reminded myself that my choices were mine alone. Emotionally, this period was a roller coaster. There were days of doubt, moments of sadness, and times when I questioned if I had moved on enough. But through it all, I remained committed to protecting my peace. I refused to let Derek's sudden reappearance derail my progress or cloud my judgment. In private moments, I revisited my journey, the heartbreak, the healing, the victories small and large. I acknowledged the growth that had come from pain and the strength that had blossomed from loss. This reflection fortified me, reminding me that I was no longer vulnerable to the same hurt. When the time came to meet Derek in person, I was prepared. I approached the encounter with calm confidence, ready to express my truth without anger or bitterness. I wanted him to understand that the woman he had left was gone, replaced by someone who valued herself enough to walk away and build a better life. Our conversation was intense but necessary. I told him honestly how his leaving had shattered me and how his absence forced me to find strength I never knew I had. I shared how I had rebuilt my life, found happiness, and grown into a person who no longer needed him to be whole. Derek listened, visibly affected, perhaps for the first time realizing the full extent of his mistakes. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted. I was no longer the one hurt and pleading for answers. I was the one standing tall, setting boundaries, and demanding respect. Derek was left to confront his regrets without the possibility of easy forgiveness. Walking away from that meeting, I felt a sense of closure and liberation. The past no longer held sway over my future. I had faced the source of my pain and emerged stronger with my dignity intact. This chapter taught me invaluable lessons about healing, self-respect, and the power of moving forward. It reminded me that people may come and go, but the strength we build within ourselves lasts a lifetime. The experience of Derek's return was a test, one I passed by choosing myself over pain, growth over bitterness, and freedom over regret. And that choice changed everything. After the emotional turbulence of Derek's unexpected return and our intense conversations, I realized that simply reacting to his pleas wasn't going to serve me. I needed to take control of the narrative and set firm boundaries to protect my newfound peace. This was no longer about Derek or what he wanted. It was about me reclaiming my life on my terms. I made a conscious decision to focus on my healing and growth, refusing to be drawn back into the cycle of pain and uncertainty that had defined our past. The first step was to create distance, both physical and emotional. I limited our interactions strictly to necessary conversations, avoiding personal or emotional topics that could reopen old wounds. Derek was persistent, sending messages filled with regret and longing, but I chose not to engage beyond what was healthy for me. This wasn't about shutting him out cruelly, it was about self-preservation. I reminded myself that healing required space, and I was committed to creating that space no matter how difficult it felt. At the same time, I leaned heavily on my support system. Olivia, my best friend, was a constant source of encouragement and perspective. She helped me stay grounded when my emotions threatened to spiral. "You're not the same person you were," she'd remind me. "This is your life now, and you get to decide what it looks like." My brother Ethan was equally supportive, providing tough love when I wavered. His straightforward advice helped me see things clearly when emotions clouded my judgment. And my mother, Linda, offered gentle wisdom and unconditional love, reminding me to be patient with myself and trust the process. I also sought professional guidance through therapy. Talking to a counselor allowed me to unpack the layers of hurt, betrayal, and self-doubt that lingered beneath the surface. Therapy was a safe space where I learned tools to manage my emotions, set healthy boundaries, and cultivate self-compassion. It helped me understand that forgiveness doesn't mean excusing someone's behavior or forgetting the pain. It means freeing myself from the hold that resentment has over me. While I wasn't ready to forgive Derek, I recognized that letting go of bitterness was essential for my own well-being. Alongside emotional healing, I focused on rebuilding my life practically. I poured my energy into my career, taking on exciting new projects that reignited my passion for graphic design. Work became both a distraction and a source of fulfillment. I set goals, pushed my creative boundaries, and found satisfaction in my accomplishments. This focus on personal growth reminded me that I was capable, talented, and deserving of success, independent of my past relationships. I also explored new interests that nurtured my mind and body. Yoga and meditation became daily rituals that helped me cultivate calm and resilience. I spent more time outdoors, hiking and connecting with nature, which provided clarity and peace. These practices grounded me in the present moment and helped me release the grip of past hurts. Socially, I became more intentional about the relationships I maintained. I surrounded myself with people who uplifted me, friends who supported my growth and respected my boundaries. I distanced myself from anyone who perpetuated negativity or sought to draw me back into drama. This was a difficult but necessary step in protecting my emotional health and reinforcing the positive changes I was making. Throughout this period, I documented my journey, not as a way to dwell on pain, but to celebrate progress. Journaling became a powerful outlet where I reflected on my experiences, acknowledged my strength, and set intentions for the future. Writing helped me articulate feelings I couldn't always express aloud and served as a reminder of how far I had come. As I grew stronger, I prepared myself for a final confrontation, not one fueled by anger but by clarity and self-respect. I wanted Derek to understand that I was no longer the person he had left behind and that I had no interest in rekindling what was lost. This confrontation would be my opportunity to close that chapter firmly and on my own terms. Throughout this process, I learned profound lessons about the importance of self-love, boundaries, and personal empowerment. I understood that healing isn't linear. It requires patience, courage, and the willingness to put yourself first. I embraced the truth that my worth isn't defined by someone else's actions or regrets. Choosing to focus on myself rather than on Derek's return transformed the entire experience. What could have been a painful relapse into heartbreak became a powerful journey of self-discovery and resilience. I no longer saw myself as a victim of betrayal, but as a survivor who had taken control of her own happiness. This turning point set the stage for the final chapter, the moment I would confront Derek with confidence, not as someone seeking closure, but as someone who had already found it within herself. It was the moment I reclaimed my power completely, showing that moving on isn't just about leaving the past behind, it's about embracing the future with strength and grace. By making these choices, I ensured that my story was no longer about loss and regret, but about growth, empowerment, and the freedom to live life on my own terms. The moment of confrontation with Derek was unlike anything I had imagined. It wasn't dramatic or explosive, but rather calm, deliberate, and deeply empowering. After months of preparation, healing, and growth, I was finally ready to face him, not as the hurt woman he had left behind, but as someone who had reclaimed her strength and her life. This meeting was about closure, not conflict, clarity, not chaos. When we met, the setting was neutral, a quiet cafe that neither of us frequented, a place that allowed for privacy without emotional triggers. Derek arrived with an air of nervousness, perhaps sensing that this encounter wouldn't unfold like the ones before. I greeted him politely but firmly, determined to maintain control over the conversation and my emotions. It was important to me that he understood the transformation I had undergone. I began by recounting our past, not with bitterness but with honesty. I spoke about the hopes we had shared, the future I believed we were building together, and the shock of his departure. I described the heartbreak, the loneliness, and the journey of rebuilding myself after he walked away. These weren't accusations. They were the truths of my experience, laid bare with vulnerability and strength. What Derek heard was not a plea for reconciliation, but a statement of fact. I explained how his choices had forced me to grow in ways I never expected. I told him about the support I found in my sister, my best friend Olivia, and my father. I spoke of therapy, of new passions, and the peace I had cultivated through self-care. I shared my professional achievements and the personal goals I had met. Each word was a testament to the woman I had become, someone who thrived despite the pain. Derek listened, visibly moved, but also subdued. For the first time, I saw the weight of regret in his eyes, not the casual remorse of a fleeting mistake, but the profound sorrow of someone who realized too late what he had lost. He admitted that he never imagined I would come back stronger, that he had underestimated my resilience. His words were sincere, but I knew they came too late to change anything. Then came the moment of clear boundaries. I told Derek firmly that while I respected his honesty, my life had moved on. I was no longer available to him emotionally or otherwise. The door to the past was closed, and reopening it was not an option. I made it clear that my forgiveness, if it ever came, would be for my own peace, not a ticket for him to return. The power dynamic had shifted entirely. I was no longer the one left behind, vulnerable and uncertain. What shocked Derek most was not my refusal to take him back, but the confidence and calmness with which I delivered it. He had expected pain, anger, perhaps desperation. Instead, he encountered a woman who had turned her heartbreak into strength, her loss into a new beginning. That realization seemed to leave him at a loss, something he hadn't anticipated when he reached out. The conversation ended with mutual respect, but no illusions. We parted ways knowing that the past was behind us and that the future was mine to shape. Walking away from that meeting, I felt a profound sense of liberation and closure. I was free from the shadow Derek's betrayal had cast over my life. I had taken back my power, not through vengeance, but through self-respect and resilience. In the days that followed, I reflected on what this confrontation meant. It was more than a final chapter. It was a powerful affirmation of my journey from heartbreak to healing. It taught me that strength often comes from vulnerability, and that standing up for oneself is an act of courage that transforms pain into growth. This experience also deepened my understanding of forgiveness, not as a gift given to others, but as a gift we give ourselves to let go of resentment. I knew that holding on to bitterness would only chain me to the past. By choosing to release it, I embraced the freedom to live fully and authentically. Moreover, I realized the importance of self-love and boundaries in relationships. Trust must be earned and protected. And sometimes, the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is to say no, to walk away, and to prioritize our own well-being over others' mistakes. The encounter with Derek became a pivotal moment, a clear line drawn between who I was and who I had become. It was proof that pain does not have to define us, and that with determination, we can reclaim our narratives and rebuild our lives stronger than before. This climax wasn't about dramatic revenge or confrontation. It was about quiet strength, clarity, and the power of choosing oneself. It was the moment I stepped fully into my own light and left the shadows of the past behind. And that choice changed everything. After the confrontation with Derek, life settled into a new, clearer rhythm, one marked by healing, growth, and a deep sense of empowerment. That meeting was a turning point, but it was just one moment in a much longer journey of reclaiming my happiness and rebuilding my life on my own terms. The regret Derek carried was his burden to bear, but my focus shifted entirely to my own well-being and future. In the weeks that followed, I continued to nurture the emotional strength I had cultivated. The support of my best friend Olivia, my brother Ethan, and my mother Linda remained invaluable. Olivia's unwavering encouragement reminded me daily that I deserved joy and respect, while Ethan's straightforward advice kept me grounded when self-doubt crept in. My mother's gentle wisdom was a constant source of comfort, reminding me that healing is a process that takes time and patience. Therapy became an essential part of my ongoing recovery. It offered a safe space to unpack lingering feelings and to develop strategies for maintaining healthy boundaries and fostering self-love. Through counseling, I learned that forgiveness isn't always about reconciling with those who hurt us, but about releasing the hold pain has on our hearts. I didn't have to forget or excuse Derek's actions. I only needed to let go of the resentment so I could fully move forward. Practically, I threw myself into my passions and goals with renewed vigor. My career as a graphic designer flourished as I took on new projects that challenged and inspired me. The sense of accomplishment and creative fulfillment was a powerful antidote to the past wounds. I also prioritized self-care, incorporating yoga, meditation, and nature walks into my routine. These practices nurtured my mind and body, grounding me in the present and helping me release the weight of past pain. Socially, I became more intentional about the relationships I maintained. I surrounded myself with people who uplifted and respected me, those who celebrated my growth rather than holding me back. I distanced myself from negativity and drama, choosing instead to cultivate a circle of genuine support. This shift was both liberating and necessary, reinforcing the positive changes I had worked so hard to achieve. Family dynamics also evolved. While my relationship with Derek remained closed, my bonds with Olivia, Ethan, and Linda grew stronger. Their presence reminded me that family isn't just about shared history, but about those who choose to stand by you unconditionally. I found peace in accepting that some relationships, no matter how painful, may never fully heal, and that was okay. My priority became protecting my peace and nurturing the connections that truly mattered. Reflecting on the entire experience, I understood that betrayal was a catalyst for profound personal growth. It forced me to confront difficult truths about trust, boundaries, and self-worth. Most importantly, it taught me that strength often arises from vulnerability, and that choosing to stand up for yourself is a powerful act of courage. I also came to appreciate the value of telling my story, not to dwell on pain, but to inspire others facing similar challenges. Sharing my journey with trusted friends and support groups brought connection and healing. It reminded me that we are not alone in our struggles, and that vulnerability can be a source of empowerment. Looking ahead, I embraced a vision for my life grounded in self-respect, authenticity, and hope. I committed to living boldly, pursuing my dreams without fear, and surrounding myself with love and respect. The pain Derek caused no longer defined me. Instead, it became a chapter that revealed my resilience and shaped my path forward. Today, I am stronger, wiser, and more confident. I have reclaimed my narrative and learned to protect my heart while remaining open to joy and connection. The scars of the past are reminders of my journey, not shackles that bind me. They serve as a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of rising above pain. This journey was not easy, but it was transformative. It showed me that even when people we love hurt us deeply, we have the power to heal, grow, and create a life filled with meaning and happiness. My story is one of loss, yes, but also one of triumph, self-discovery, and unwavering strength. In the end, the greatest victory was not in punishing Derek, but in choosing to love myself enough to walk away stronger and freer. That choice continues to guide me every day. A beacon of hope and empowerment that lights my way forward.